My name is Emily Carter. I'm 36 years old, and for a long time I believed that if you loved someone honestly, stood beside them during their hardest years, and built a family together, that love would eventually protect you from the worst things life could bring. I was wrong. I learned that lesson after losing almost everything I thought I had. My husband, my home, my financial security, my parents, and for a short time, I was terrified that I might even lose my children. But before I tell you how my life fell apart, I want you to understand something. This isn't a story about a woman who wanted revenge. It isn't a story about a rich man being punished. And it isn't a story about winning a court battle just because someone had more money. It's a story about a mother who was forced to choose between the people she loved and the children she could never abandon. So before we begin, if you enjoy emotional family stories about betrayal, courage, forgiveness, and second chances, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Because what happened to me changed the way I understood family forever. And the hardest part, the man who broke my marriage wasn't the person I expected to hurt me the most. It was my own father. The day everything looked perfect. 10 years earlier, my life looked nothing like it does now. I lived in a beautiful 2-story house outside Charlotte, North Carolina, with my husband, Daniel, and our 2 children. Our son, Noah, was 6. Our daughter, Lily, was 4. Daniel was 42, successful, confident, and extremely wealthy. He owned a construction company that had grown from a small family operation into a business with dozens of employees. We had a nice house, 2 cars, a backyard where the kids played, a kitchen larger than the entire apartment where I had lived during college. We took vacations. We ate at nice restaurants. And from the outside, we looked like one of those families people assumed had figured everything out. But our story hadn't started with money. It started with a simple coffee. I was 26 when I met Daniel. At that time, he wasn't the wealthy businessman everyone knew. He was just a hardworking man who seemed to notice little things. One rainy afternoon, I walked into a small coffee shop after work. I was exhausted. My shoes were wet. My hair was a mess. And I had absolutely no intention of talking to anyone. Daniel was sitting near the window. He looked at me and smiled. Then he moved his umbrella from the empty chair beside him. "You can sit here if you want," he said. I laughed. "I don't even know you." He smiled again. "That's probably why you can trust me." I don't know why, but that sentence stayed with me. We talked for almost 2 hours, not about money, not about careers, not about success. We talked about our parents, our childhoods, our fears, the kind of family we wanted someday. At the end of the evening, Daniel asked for my number. I gave it to him. 6 months later, we were engaged. My father wasn't thrilled. He didn't dislike Daniel. He simply believed Daniel was too ambitious. My father, Robert, had always been the kind of man who believed money changed people. "Emily," he told me one night, "a man can lose money and still be a good husband, but if money becomes his identity, you'll always come second." I didn't listen. I thought my father was being overly protective. I thought he didn't understand Daniel. I thought I knew my future. 3 months later, Daniel and I got married. My mother cried throughout the ceremony. My father gave me a long hug. "Whatever happens," he whispered, "you can always come home." I remembered those words years later. I remembered them when I was standing outside his house with 2 children and nowhere else to go. Our first few years were beautiful. Daniel worked long hours, but he always came home. When Noah was born, Daniel cried. I'd never seen him cry before. He held our son against his chest and whispered, "You're my whole world." When Lily was born 2 years later, he said the same thing. For a while, we were happy, really happy. Daniel's business kept growing. With that growth came more money, then more employees, then business trips, then dinners with investors, then meetings that lasted until midnight. At first, I understood. I knew success required sacrifice. But eventually, the man who came home from work wasn't the same man I had married. He became impatient. He stopped asking about my day. He stopped playing with the children. He spent more time looking at his phone. If I asked him what was wrong, he'd say, "Nothing." If I asked him if he was happy, he'd say, "I'm tired." If I tried to discuss our marriage, he'd become irritated. "You have everything you need, Emily." That sentence became his favorite answer. You have everything you need. A beautiful house, a comfortable life, healthy children, money. What more could you want? I wanted my husband, but I didn't know how to say that without sounding ungrateful. The first warning. One evening, Daniel came home after midnight. I was sitting on the couch waiting for him. "You said you'd be home at 9. He took off his jacket. "I had a meeting." "At midnight?" "Yes." "With who?" He stared at me. "Why are you interrogating me?" "I'm not interrogating you, I'm worried." "There's nothing to worry about." He walked upstairs. I stayed downstairs. 10 minutes later, I heard his phone ringing. He didn't answer. Then a message appeared. I wasn't trying to read it. I swear I wasn't. But the phone was on the kitchen counter. The screen lit up, and I saw a woman's name. Madison. Under her name were 6 words, "I miss you already. Tonight was perfect." My heart stopped. I picked up the phone, then I put it down. I didn't open the message. I didn't need to. I knew. The next morning I asked Daniel, "Who is Madison?" He froze, only for a second, but I noticed. "She's someone who works with us." "Why did she say she missed you?" "Emily, why?" He sighed. "You've misunderstood." "Then explain it." He said nothing. I waited. Finally, he said, "She's interested in me." I stared at him. "And you?" He looked away. That was when I realized the truth. He wasn't denying it. The other woman, Madison, was 31. She worked as a consultant for Daniel's company. She was smart, confident, and single. At first, Daniel said their relationship was purely professional. Then I discovered hotel reservations, restaurant receipts, messages, a second phone, and eventually photographs. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I simply sat at the dining table and cried. Daniel came home that evening. I put the phone on the table. He looked at it, then at me. "You went through my things." I couldn't believe that was his first response. "You cheated on me." He didn't apologize. Instead, he said, "I didn't plan for this to happen." I laughed through my tears. "People don't accidentally have an affair." He sat down. "I've been unhappy for a long time." I stared at him. "You could have told me." I tried. "No, Daniel, you stopped talking to me." He looked at the floor. Then he said something that destroyed whatever hope I had left. "I think I'm in love with her." I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. I whispered, "What about our children?" He closed his eyes. "I love them." "Then what are you doing?" "I don't know." I did. He had already chosen. And why Mother's house? That night I called my mother. I didn't tell her everything. I couldn't. I simply said, "Mom, I need you." She immediately asked, "Are the children safe?" That was my mother. She didn't ask about money. She didn't ask what I had done. She asked about the children. "They're asleep." "Come home." I packed 2 bags. I put clothes for Noah and Lily inside. I stood in their bedroom for several minutes. Noah was sleeping with his favorite stuffed dinosaur. Lily had one arm wrapped around her pillow. I kissed both of them. Then I whispered, "I'm sorry." I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for, maybe for not being able to protect them from what was coming. The divorce. Daniel filed for divorce 2 months later. He hired an expensive attorney. I hired a lawyer using the money I had saved. The difference was obvious. His attorney had a team. Mine had a small office and a receptionist who apologized whenever she couldn't return my call immediately. Daniel wanted the children, not because he had been their primary caregiver. He hadn't. I had taken them to school. I had attended their doctor appointments. I had packed lunches. I had helped with homework. I had stayed awake during fevers. I had been there every night, but Daniel had something I didn't, money, and his attorney kept repeating one phrase, stable environment. Daniel argued that I had left the marital home. He claimed I had taken the children away. He said I was emotionally unstable. I was shocked. I wasn't unstable. I was heartbroken. There is a difference, and why fathers change. During the divorce, I went to my parents' house. My father initially welcomed me, but after several weeks his attitude changed. One evening he said, "Emily, you need to think practically." "What does that mean?" Daniel can provide a better life for the children. I stared at him. They're not a business investment, Dad. I didn't say that. You said he can provide a better life. He can, but I'm their mother. And you're struggling. I looked at him. Yes, I'm struggling, he sighed. Then maybe the children should stay with Daniel temporarily. I felt my stomach tight. No, Emily, no. You don't understand how complicated this is. I understand perfectly. You need to think about what's best for Noah and Lily. I am. Then stop being emotional. That word hurt. Emotional. As if caring about my children made me irrational. As if grief made me incapable of being a mother. I looked at my father. Would you tell Mom to give up her children because she's struggling? He didn't answer. The night I heard the conversation. A few days later, I woke up around 2 in the morning. I heard voices downstairs, my father, and someone else. I quietly walked toward the stairs. It was Daniel. My husband was standing in my parents' living room. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard my father say, "She can't keep living like this." Daniel answered, "I don't want to hurt her." My father replied, "Then help her understand." I froze. Then Daniel said, "I'll take care of the children." My father answered, "That's what I'm trying to convince her to accept." I covered my mouth. My own father was helping my husband take my children away. I walked back upstairs. I didn't confront them, not yet. Instead, I sat beside my sleeping children. And for the first time since the divorce began, I made a decision. I was going to leave. Not because I wanted to abandon my parents. Not because I had another home waiting. But because I understood something. If I stayed, everyone else would make decisions for me. Daniel would decide my future. My father would decide what happened to my children. And I would spend the rest of my life apologizing for wanting to be their mother. So at 4 in the morning, I packed our bags. I woke Noah first. "Mommy, where are we going?" I hugged him. "Somewhere safe." Then I woke Lily. She rubbed her eyes. "Are we going home?" I looked at her. I wanted to say yes, but I didn't know where home was anymore, so I simply said, "Mommy is going to take care of you." We walked out of my parents' house before sunrise. I had 2 children, 3 bags, a nearly empty bank account, and no idea where we would sleep that night, but I had made my choice. I would never give up my children, not for money, not for comfort, not for fear, not even for my own father. And I had no idea that leaving that house would be the beginning of the hardest chapter of my life. The first night away from my parents, I rented a small motel room. It wasn't beautiful. The carpet was old. The heater made strange noises. There was one tiny window overlooking a parking lot, but when I closed the door, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Safety. No one was telling me what to do. No one was telling me what was best for my children. No one was telling me that money mattered more than love. I sat on the edge of the bed. Noah was watching cartoons on the television. Lily was eating crackers. I looked at them and started crying. Noah noticed. "Mommy," I wiped my face. "I'm okay." He climbed onto the bed beside me. "Are you sad because Daddy doesn't live with us?" I didn't know what to say, so I told him the truth without giving him adult details. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt other people. He nodded. "Is Daddy coming back?" I looked at my son. "I don't know." He leaned against me. Then he said, "You have me." That sentence broke my heart, because he was 6 years old. And somehow he was trying to comfort me, finding a job. The next morning, I started applying for jobs. Before my marriage, I had worked in customer service, but I had spent almost 10 years taking care of my family. My resume looked empty. Employers asked, "Why were you out of the workforce?" I would say, "I was raising my children." Some interviewers smiled politely. Others looked concerned. One woman asked, "Do you have reliable childcare?" I said, "I'm working on it." She didn't hire me. Another company offered me a part-time position. The pay wasn't much, but I accepted immediately. I started working mornings. Then I found evening work answering customer service calls remotely. My days became exhausting. I woke up at 5, prepared breakfast, got the children dressed, dropped them at school, worked, picked them up, made dinner, helped with homework, worked again after they went to sleep. Then I studied court documents until midnight. I was tired all the time, but I kept going. Because every time I felt like quitting, I looked at Noah and Lily. The court hearing. 3 weeks later, we went to court. Daniel arrived wearing an expensive suit. His attorney carried several folders. I had one folder. My lawyer told me, "Don't react emotionally." I nodded. But when Daniel walked past me without saying hello, my heart still hurt. The judge asked questions. Where were the children living? Who provided childcare? What was the financial situation? Was there evidence of domestic violence? Was either parent involved in substance abuse? None of those things applied. The case wasn't about whether I was a bad mother. It was about whether I could provide stability. Daniel's attorney argued that Daniel had a stable home, significant financial resources, and health insurance. My attorney argued that I had been the children's primary caregiver. Then Daniel's attorney made a statement I will never forget. "Your Honor, my client believes the mother is currently struggling financially and emotionally." I looked at Daniel. He didn't look at me. I wanted to scream, "Of course I'm struggling, you destroyed our family." But I didn't. Because my lawyer had warned me, "Stay calm, tell the truth, don't let anger speak for you," so I simply answered every question honestly. At the end, the judge ordered temporary shared custody. I was allowed to keep the children most nights. Daniel received weekend visitation. It wasn't perfect, but I had my children. For the moment, the first weekend. When Daniel came to pick them up, Lily held my leg. "Mommy, I don't want to go." I knelt down. "You'll be okay. Are you coming?" "No," she started crying. I hugged her. "Remember what Mommy always says?" "What?" "Be kind." She nodded. "And be brave." "That's right." Daniel stood by the car. For a moment, I looked at him. The man I had loved for 10 years, the father of my children. A stranger. Then I closed the door, I walked inside, and cried for 40 minutes. The message. That evening, I received a text from Daniel. "You need to stop making this harder than it has to be." I stared at it. I typed, "What do you want?" He replied, "Except that the children will have a better future with me." I didn't answer. I placed my phone face down, then I opened my laptop. I searched for affordable apartments. I searched for childcare assistance. I searched for community programs. I searched for everything I could find. I realized something important. I had spent years depending on my husband. Then I had depended on my parents. Now I had to learn to depend on myself, the stranger who helped me. One afternoon, while I was working at a grocery store, an older woman noticed me crying during my break. Her name was Margaret. She was 72. She had worked at the store for nearly 20 years. She sat beside me. "You look like you're carrying something heavy." I laughed. "You have no idea." She said, "I probably do." I told her a small part of my story. She listened. She didn't judge Daniel. She didn't judge my parents. She didn't tell me what I should do. When I finished, she said, "My husband left me when I was 39. I looked at her. "You?" She smiled. "Yes, I had 3 children. What happened?" "I worked 2 jobs. How did you survive?" She shrugged. "One day at a time." Then she reached into her purse. She handed me a piece of paper. It had the number of a local family support organization. They helped me when I had nothing. I stared at the paper. "Why are you helping me?" She smiled. "Because someone once helped me." That was the first lesson I learned about humanity after losing my family. Sometimes the person who saves you isn't family. Sometimes it's a stranger, starting over. The organization helped me find affordable housing. It wasn't glamorous. It was a small 2-bedroom apartment. The kitchen was tiny. The windows were old. The rent was manageable. When I told Noah and Lily we had our own place, they were excited. Noah asked, "Do we have a backyard?" "No." "Do we have a swimming pool?" "No." He thought for a moment. "Do we have Mommy?" I smiled. "Yes." He grinned. "Then it's good." I cried that night, not because I was sad, because I realized children don't need the things adults think they need. They need safety, love, consistency, someone who shows up. The second court filing. Just when I thought things were becoming stable, Daniel filed another motion. He wanted primary custody. His argument was simple. He had more money. He lived in a larger house. He could afford private school. He could hire a nanny. He could provide better opportunities. My lawyer looked at me. Don't panic. I nodded, but I was terrified. Daniel had the money to fight forever. I didn't. Then something unexpected happened. The children's teacher agreed to provide a statement. She explained that Noah's school attendance had remained consistent. Lily had remained emotionally connected. Both children were clean, well-fed, and progressing normally. Their pediatrician provided documentation that I had attended nearly every appointment. My neighbors agreed to speak about my parenting. My employer confirmed that I worked multiple shifts to support my children. Piece by piece, the picture became clear. I wasn't wealthy, but I was present, and my father called. One night, my father called. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Emily, what do you want? I want to see the children. You can. There was silence. Then he said, I think you've misunderstood what I was trying to do. I laughed bitterly. You were trying to convince me to give my children to Daniel. I thought it was best for them. No, Dad, you thought money was best for them. I was worried about you. You didn't ask if I was okay. I knew you weren't. You knew I was struggling, so you decided I wasn't capable of being their mother. He was silent. Then he said, I love you. I closed my eyes. I love you too. Then why are you shutting me out? Because every time I looked at you, I remembered that you didn't believe in me. He started crying. I had never heard my father cry before, but I wasn't ready to forgive him. Not yet. The biggest fear. A week before the custody hearing, I received a letter. Daniel's attorney was requesting a custody evaluation. That meant interviews, home visits, psychological assessments, questions about parenting, questions about my marriage, questions about my mental health, questions about the children. I was terrified. What if someone misunderstood me? What if crying made me look unstable? What if being poor made me look irresponsible? What if Daniel's money influenced everyone? That night, I sat beside my children while they slept. I whispered, I will fight for you. Then I realized something. I wasn't fighting Daniel anymore. I was fighting my own fear. The custody evaluator came to my apartment on a Tuesday morning. She was calm, professional. What happens when they disagree? How do you manage finances? Who helps you? I answered honestly. Sometimes I felt embarrassed. I told her I had struggled financially. I told her I had cried. I told her I had needed help. But I also told her that I had never missed my children's essential needs. She watched me interact with Noah and Lily. She noticed that Noah did his homework at the kitchen table. She noticed Lily had drawings covering the refrigerator. She noticed their school schedules on the wall. She noticed medication instructions for Lily's seasonal allergies. She noticed the small things. At the end, she said, You're doing a lot with limited resources. I didn't know whether that was praise. I simply said, I'm trying. She nodded. Sometimes trying consistently matters more than having everything. I never forgot that sentence. Daniel's house. A few days later, the evaluator visited Daniel. His house was beautiful, huge, perfectly decorated. There was a swimming pool, a game room, a large backyard. He had hired a nanny. There was nothing wrong with the house. That was the problem. It was exactly what everyone expected a successful father to have. But then something happened. The evaluator asked Noah, Where do you feel most comfortable? Noah looked down. Then he said, With Mommy. The evaluator asked, Why? Noah answered, Because Mommy is always there. That sentence eventually appeared in the custody report. The report didn't say Daniel was a bad father. It didn't say I was perfect. Instead, it said something much more important. The children had a strong primary attachment to me. The evaluator recommended that the existing arrangement continue. Daniel was furious. He called me. You manipulated them. I said, I didn't. You turned them against me. I never said anything bad about you. You're lying. No, Daniel. I paused. You're angry because money couldn't buy what you thought it could. He hung up. For the first time, I didn't cry. The truth about Madison. Then I discovered something unexpected. Madison had left Daniel. Apparently, their relationship wasn't what he had imagined. She wanted him to divorce me quickly. She wanted a future. But once the divorce became complicated, she realized she didn't want to become part of a broken family. She told Daniel, "I don't want to be the reason your children lose their father." Daniel was shocked. The woman he had left his family for was walking away. I didn't celebrate. I actually felt sad, because I finally understood something. The affair hadn't created the problems in my marriage. It had revealed them. And why fathers regret. My father eventually came to my apartment. He stood outside the door. He looked older, tired. I let him in. He sat at the kitchen table. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, he said, "I was wrong." I looked at him. "I thought money would protect the children." He wiped his eyes. "But I forgot something." "What?" "They needed their mother." I didn't answer. He continued. "I saw you struggling, and instead of helping you become stronger, I tried to remove the problem." "The problem was me?" "No," he shook his head. "The problem was your situation." I looked at him. "You hurt me." "I know. You made me believe my own father didn't believe I could raise my children." "I know. Do you understand how that felt?" He nodded. "I do now." I wanted to forgive him, but forgiveness doesn't always happen in one conversation. Sometimes forgiveness begins with simply stopping the argument. That day, I allowed him to hug me. It wasn't the same as everything being fixed, but it was a beginning. The final hearing. The final custody hearing came 6 months after I left my parents' house. I sat in court beside my attorney. Daniel sat across from me. The judge reviewed the evidence: school records, medical records, employment records, custody evaluations, financial statements. The judge eventually said, "The court finds that both parents love their children." My heart sank, because I knew what came next. But the court also finds that the mother has been the children's primary caregiver and that continuity is in the children's best interests. I closed my eyes. I didn't hear the next sentence clearly. I was crying. The judge granted me primary physical custody. Daniel received significant parenting time. He was still their father. He wasn't erased. He wasn't punished. And honestly, I didn't want him erased. My children deserved their father. They just didn't deserve to lose their mother walking out of court. When we walked outside, Daniel stopped me. "Emily." I turned. He looked different. Not powerful, not angry, just tired. "I didn't think it would end like this." I said. "Neither did I." He looked toward the children. "Can I still be a good father?" I answered honestly. "Yes." He looked surprised. "After everything?" "The children didn't choose our divorce." I paused. "They shouldn't have to pay for it." He looked down. "I don't deserve your forgiveness." "Maybe not." He nodded. "But I hope one day you forgive yourself." He looked at me. "For what?" "For believing money could replace love." Then I walked away. Winning custody didn't magically fix my life. That was something nobody told me. People think once the court makes a decision, the pain disappears. It doesn't. I still had bills. I still had emotional scars. I still had children asking difficult questions. I still had to co-parent with the man who had broken my heart. Daniel eventually stopped seeing Madison. He also began therapy. Not because I asked him to, because he finally realized he had destroyed something he couldn't buy back. He started attending Noah's soccer games. He went to Lily's school performances. He learned how to make their favorite pancakes. Slowly, he became a better father. Not my husband, not my partner, but their father, and that mattered. My new career. One day, Margaret, the woman from the grocery store, asked me something. "What are you doing with your life?" I laughed. "Surviving." She shook her head. "No, what are you building?" That question changed me. I started taking online courses in bookkeeping. I had always been good with numbers. Within a year, I got a full-time accounting position at a small local company. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I earned my own money. I paid my own bills. I bought groceries with money I had earned. The first time I paid rent entirely from my own paycheck, I sat in my car afterward and cried. Not because I was broke, because I wasn't dependent anymore. My children changed too. Noah became more protective of Lily. sometimes too protective. I realized he had been carrying adult emotions, so I started taking both children to family counseling. We talked, we drew pictures, we played games, we learned how to talk about feelings. One day, Lily drew a picture of our family. There were 4 people. Me, her, Noah, and Daniel. I looked at it. You included Daddy? She nodded. He's still Daddy. I smiled. Yes. Then she added another person. Grandpa. I almost cried. Do you want Grandpa in our family picture? She nodded. Because Grandpa said sorry. Children can be incredibly wise. Sometimes they don't need years to understand what adults spend decades learning. My father's second chance. My father began visiting every Sunday. At first I was uncomfortable, but he never pushed. He didn't ask me to forget. He didn't demand forgiveness. He simply showed up. He brought groceries. He helped Noah with homework. He repaired a broken cabinet. He took Lily to the park. One afternoon, I watched him helping Noah build a model airplane. I realized something. My father had made a terrible mistake. But he was trying to repair it. And maybe that's what humanity really means. Not never making mistakes, but having the courage to admit when you have hurt someone. The letter. 1 year after my divorce, I received a letter from Daniel. He could have texted. He could have emailed. Instead, he wrote a letter. It said, Emily, I don't expect you to answer this. I only want to tell you something I should have said years ago. I confused success with happiness. I thought because I could provide a beautiful house, vacations, cars, and expensive schools, I was giving my family everything. I didn't realize the thing my children needed most was my presence. I hurt you. I hurt our children. And I hurt myself. I don't expect our marriage to return. But I hope one day our children will remember that even though their parents couldn't stay together, both parents chose to love them. I'm sorry, Daniel. I read the letter 3 times, then I put it away. I didn't forgive him immediately, but I stopped hating him. That was enough for that day. 3 years have passed since the day I walked out of my parents' house with 2 children and 3 bags. My life is completely different now. I own a small house. It's not as large as Daniel's. There isn't a swimming pool. There isn't a huge backyard, but there is something inside that house that money couldn't buy. Peace. Noah is now a teenager. Lily is growing into a confident young woman. Daniel is still involved in their lives. My father and I speak almost every day. My mother jokes that she has too many people coming over for dinner. And sometimes, when everyone is sitting around my small dining table, I look around and think about the woman I used to be. I thought family meant people who shared your last name. I was wrong. Family means the people who stay. The people who show up, the people who help you stand when you can't stand yourself, the people who can admit, I was wrong. And perhaps most importantly, family means knowing that love doesn't always look like perfection. Sometimes love looks like a mother working 2 jobs to keep her children safe. Sometimes it looks like a grandfather admitting he made a terrible mistake. Sometimes it looks like a father learning how to become a better parent after losing the woman he once took for granted. And sometimes love means forgiving someone without allowing them to hurt you again. The last conversation with my father. One evening, my father and I sat on the porch. He looked at me. Do you ever regret leaving? I thought about it. No. Even though everything became harder? Yes, he nodded. I deserved that answer. I smiled. Then he asked, do you regret marrying Daniel? I looked toward the window. Inside, Noah and Lily were laughing. No, he looked surprised. Why? Because if I hadn't married Daniel, I wouldn't have them. He smiled. And would you change anything? I thought for a long time. Maybe I would have listened more carefully when you warned me about money. He laughed. Maybe I should have listened to myself too. We both laughed. Then he became serious. Emily, I'm proud of you. Those words meant more to me than he knew. Because 3 years earlier I had stood in his house believing he was ashamed of me. Now he was telling me he was proud. I leaned against his shoulder. Thank you, Dad. What I learned. If you're listening to my story and you're going through something similar, I want you to remember one thing. A difficult chapter does not mean your life is over. Losing someone doesn't always mean losing your future. Sometimes losing the person you thought you couldn't live without is the beginning of discovering who you really are. I lost my husband, but I found myself. I lost my parents' house, but I built my own home. I lost financial security, but I learned independence. I lost the family I thought I had, but I discovered what family really meant. And my children, they were never something I had to win. They were never property. They were never a prize in a battle between two adults. They were human beings who deserved to be loved by both parents. That realization changed everything. 3 years later, on a Sunday afternoon, Daniel came to pick up the children. Noah grabbed his backpack. Lily ran outside. "Bye, Mom. Love you too." Daniel stopped at the door. He looked at me. "Thank you. For what?" "For never turning them against me." I smiled. "They're old enough to make their own judgments." He nodded, then he said, "I know you probably don't believe this." "What?" "I am finally happy." I smiled. "Good." He looked at me. "Are you?" I looked around my little house, at the pictures on the wall, at the children's shoes by the door, at the life I had built. Yes, and I meant it. The final lesson. People often think revenge is about making someone suffer, but I learned something different. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying the person who hurt you. It's building a life they can no longer control. It's waking up without fear. It's paying your own bills. It's raising your children with love. It's forgiving without forgetting. It's becoming the person you were always capable of becoming. My husband left me for another woman. My father once tried to convince me that my children would be better off without me. For a while, I believed I had lost everything. But I hadn't. I still had my children. I still had my courage. And eventually, I found something even more valuable. Myself. So if you're listening to this while sitting in a dark room wondering how you're going to survive tomorrow, please remember, you don't have to solve your entire life tonight. Just survive today. Wake up tomorrow. Take one step, then another. Ask for help when you need it. And never confuse financial hardship with personal failure. Being poor doesn't make you a bad parent. Being heartbroken doesn't make you weak. Asking for help doesn't make you worthless. And making a mistake doesn't mean you can't become better. People can change, families can heal, children can forgive, and sometimes the person you thought was your greatest enemy becomes someone you can finally understand. My story didn't end when my husband left. It didn't end when my father betrayed my trust. It didn't end when I walked out of that house with 2 children and almost nothing. That was simply the beginning. Because sometimes life takes everything you thought you needed, so you can discover what you truly cannot live without. For me, that was my children, and the woman I became while fighting for them. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, because there are many more emotional stories about family, betrayal, forgiveness, courage, and second chances coming your way. And if you were in Emily's position, would you have forgiven your father? Would you have allowed your children's father to remain part of their lives? Or would you have walked away from everyone? Sometimes the hardest question isn't, who hurt me? It's, what kind of person will I become because of it? And that is the question that changed my life forever.